Good afternoon. This is Aaron from Karmic Path Tarot. Today I'm going to do a walkthrough of the Lonely Dreamer Tarot, third and final edition from Kickstarter. It's now available for pre-order on Etsy, although I do believe as of filming this video, the Etsy pre-order has been paused. It's been created by Melissa Wotherspoon. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I backed this on Kickstarter back in December or January, and it started to be shipped out to folks in May, and I got it a couple weeks ago, maybe 10 days ago, towards the end of May, beginning of June. I have done one or two flip throughs, but I've not worked with it yet or shuffled, only because I was waiting to do this walkthrough and things in my lifetime, etc., hadn't really given me the full time to give it its attention. So here we are. I wanted to save it for all you guys. So with no further ado, here we go. Hopefully you could see this. The Lonely Dreamer. I'm going to read from the back. It says, a vibrant inner world grew from Odilon Redon's solitary childhood. Transcribed into vibrant works of art, Redon's dreams and visions once more bring us into the world of the Lonely Dreamer. With contributions from Dr. Esther Frankel Tishman of the Mindful Tarot, this deck and its guidebook are positioned to serve as mirror, oracle, and talisman, and to help you navigate uncertainty through embracing the present moment. And it's just a beautiful box. It came in wrapped in plastic. I tore mine off so you didn't have to see me fumble. It was a little dented and damaged in shipping, but that's okay. I believe actually the reason that the pre-order on Etsy has been paused was that the shipping company that Melissa is using needed a certain bubble wrapping to make sure it was packaged since it was shipping internationally, and they had run out of those. And so she is distributing it to the backers on Kickstarter a little bit at a time. So she paused those pre-orders, I believe, until like August, so that the Kickstarter backers could get it first and that it didn't interfere. So I will put the link to the Kickstarter in the description of this video. At the time that the pre-order goes back live, I will try to remember to update that link. But just wanted to let you know in case anyone was interested. There were two previous editions. This is the third and final edition. There are a number of cards that were swapped out. I don't know off the top of my head which ones those were. There's an additional 10 card expansion pack, which I did not add to this order. This was my first Kickstarter actually that I backed, so I think that I did not know how to add that, or I forgot. So I'm going to try to order the 10 card expansion pack when I do get it, but this does come with additional cards. So it is the 78 traditional tarot cards with 6 additional ones. So there are 84 cards in total for this third edition. 12 of the cards have been reworked and changed since the second edition, and 6 of which were just added for this deck. It's listed as being perfect for the traditional tarot reader and intuitive tarot readers because of those additional cards. And so there's the invitation to read them intuitively. It is printed on a high quality 330 GSM German black core with satin finish and a linen texture. The cards are 70 millimeters by 120 millimeters. I don't know if that's exactly traditional standard tarot size, but I do know that it's pretty close to traditional tarot size, I believe. Okay, So once again, no further ado, here's the box. It's, you know, very sturdily constructed. It's got a magnetic closure here. You know, I like the size. It's good for putting on my bookshelf. I store all my decks that come in these kinds of boxes on my bookshelf alongside my tarot books. I wouldn't put this one in a bag necessarily, at least not right now. Okay, so here's the guidebook, which we will tuck into later. It's quite meaty, about 150 pages, 144 pages. And the guidebook was written by Esther Frankel Tishman, with some contributions by Melissa, who curated the deck. And we'll go more into that, her insights. So, get this open here. So the deck came in a particular order that Dr. Tishman believes is the correct order. This is outlined in the guidebook, and I'll go over that more. So here are the backings. Hopefully you could see that. Wow, they're really beautiful. You know, I was just thinking, I was so excited to get this deck, but as you'll see with the actual when we go through the actual flip through, you know, it's summer here where I live in central New York. Today is quite gloomy and rainy here in mid-June, so it's actually the perfect day to go through this. But it's not really a summery deck. I still will use it. I'm not exactly totally into, you know, having summer, fall, winter, spring decks, but there are some decks that feel more, say, summery or spring. This is not one of them. Okay, so this starts with the Ace of Pentacles. So it goes through the minor arcana first, and then it goes into the major arcana. That's the order that it came in. So I'm just going to go through that, actually. So here it came with stickers. This was part of the stretch goals. This was part of the stretch goals. Because they're really cool. You know, you can see they come here, and these are of some of the cards, of course. I don't know yet exactly how I'll use these. I probably most likely will just keep these in the box. I just like the way they look. When I get to creating a full journal for this deck, I might use these stickers in that journal, but that's a long ways off. I'm working through some other decks before I would get to this one, but I might, as fall turns to winter, I might start the specific journal that I keep for each of my decks. This is the Fool down here, so we'll go through the Magician. Great. Okay, so let's put these aside for now. So we start with the Pentacle suit. Ace of Pentacles. You can see here there's really like a deep kind of burnt orange with green. You can see the pentacle in the background. I think this is really beautiful. Hopefully the light is not catching it too poorly. You know, it's very subtle. I'm not an artist or art person, but to me I would call this kind of muted, but I also think it's vibrant at the same time, if that makes sense. I do find for some of the cards, the writing in some lights, you know, I can see it pretty well, but in some lights it doesn't pop super well. Two of Pentacles. See, here I have a darker font. I almost wish that this had a darker font. The colors here work a lot better in terms of visually, but to see, I think it would pop a little bit better with a darker font personally. So the Two of Pentacles, sort of an angel or a winged figure. You see the water in the background in a boat. It's very sunny, very bright. You can see the figure is holding the Two Pentacles. kind of get that sense of balance because the 2 pentacles are balanced on top of each other. It's a little different than traditional imagery, but I really do like that. It looks like this reminds me of being on kind of like sea cliffs or like sand dunes. The 3 of Pentacles, very dark and moody. I just love how this figure here is framed, and you have these 2 other figures kind of commenting on them. So here the white I think works pretty well. It matches really nicely. 4 of Pentacles. I just love this picture. To me it's totally different than the traditional 4 of Pentacles from the RWS, but and this is going to sound strange, but this face, when I saw it on the Kickstarter, it totally reminds me kind of a little bit of like a Michael Myers, which sounds creepy and scary, but you definitely get the kind of malaise, a little bit, even though the 4 of Pentacles isn't really complacent, I get the kind of like dissatisfaction, you know, a little bit of rest. You know, 4 of Pentacles I often think of as kind of grasping, clinging. What are we clinging to? Being a little bit miserly. And so you can definitely tell the figure here is not happy with what they have, and it's quite sparse and spare in the background. 5 of Pentacles. You know, the moodiness, the darkness here, the sort of Madonna and child figure. I don't know if you could see that. Against the stained glass window, definitely gives you the traditional sense, but also so much more. 6 of Pentacles. So you have this kind of veiled Madonna-like figure and another sort of Christ-like figure almost kissing her on the forehead maybe. You see this halo type thing in the background, just really beautiful, very somber, but also very hopeful, which, you know, you often get sort of charity from the 6 of Pentacles, so it's really hopeful, I think. 7 of Pentacles. 8 of Pentacles. You know, in these 2, you get a little bit, you do see some sense of the garden imagery. Here, you know, you don't get quite the same one, but you can see the figure here has a book. So you get that same sense of diligence, persistence, kind of, you know, perfecting a craft or a skill. 9 of Pentacles, naked figure in a garden. I really love that all the colors are kind of different, but you get a lot of oranges and yellows, kind of earthy tones. 10 of Pentacles. So you have the kind of a father figure, a mother, and a child. They don't particularly look happy, but I get the sense that Redon's art is kind of about that, you know, hence the lonely dreamer. So even though the 10 of Pentacles is a card of fulfillment, you kind of get this sense of a little bit of a questioning of things, and we also get that side of sometimes family structure, having it all, can have a little bit of another edge to it. Page of Pentacles. I love the colors here, the blue, the oranges. Knight of Pentacles. Very dark, very moody. Queen of Pentacles. And King of Pentacles. Again, another kind of sort of like Jesus like figure, Joseph almost. I have a lot of light here, so it is a little bit shiny, but it's not, in reality the card does catch light quite a bit, but I don't think it's as shiny if you didn't have as much light as I have going on here. All right, that brings us to our wand suit. So we have the Ace of Wands here, very bright. The Two of Wands, see the 2 figures. So it looks like for most of the wands, we have this like superimposed wands image, which works to really see the wands. I don't necessarily love it the most. I feel like the pentacles, it looks a little bit more natural. Like it could be part of the painting here. It's a little more artificial, but it still works well. You know, it gets that sense. Although as I'm saying that, I'm kind of almost even imagining with the wands, especially the first half of the suit, right? It's kind of about the idea of a venture and then making it real. So in a way, there's almost like an imaginary that we can can think about as going over, right? It's in their imaginations. Three of Wands, you see the 3 wands, you get the sense of the ships coming in or sending your ships out, someone waiting, contemplating, dreaming. 4 of Wands, this is really cool. You know, we have this figure here that almost looks like he's like blowing or looking over the ship that has the wands in it. And this other figure here. So you definitely get sort of celebration and happiness, some sort of divine intervention, things going as according to plan, positivity, moving somewhere, moving towards a goal. 5 of Wands. So we get 2 what looks like kind of centaurs fighting with spears and the butterflies. 6 of Wands. Get the green laurel leaves here. You get people sort of looking on. So this definitely works. Definitely works really well, you know, for a Rider-Waite Smith interpretation, but also more, right? It's its own thing. 7 of Wands, right? We see the 7 wands here. Don't know how well this is going to come up on camera. This art is beautiful, but it is, you know, quite hard to catch on camera. Some of these, the way the colors are, the way they blend together. 8 of Wands. You see the 8 wands coming out. I really like that it's not just 8 wands. I'm not the only person to say this, but I don't love decks that just have the 8, you know, wands coming at you. That's a traditional thing. I really wish decks would do something different. You know, on top of that, you get the action of the horse, so I like that as well. And there's a lot of swirling action around. 9 of Wands. This sort of, this kind of reminds me of Saint Sebastian. You know, again, I don't know the art super well, but Saint Sebastian being tied to a tree, that's what it kind of reminds me of, and which would be totally a similar vibe to 9 of Wands. 10 of Wands. Now this is real sort of dark and moody and beautiful. And I love the big color change. Right, a lot of the wands are quite bright, which is what you think, but I love the kind of starkness and austereness of these wands. And as I say this, the superimposed wand images are actually growing on me as I look through this. So we get our Page of Wands. It's like a naked figure with a fig leaf going out. Knight of Wands. A lot of drama, a lot of dynamicism. Queen of Wands. You see this figure here. You see the cat. The traditional cat figure. Definitely, there's no sunflowers necessarily in here, but you definitely get the colors and the flowers. Plus, you know, there's only so much you could do, right, with the curated, and I don't necessarily want to see a replication. So, King of Wands. All of these kings so far really reminded me of kind of like a Jesus and Joseph kind of thing. Ace of Cups, right? So you see the big cup, a bird in it. It looks like that bird might have kind of like a worm in its mouth. 2 of Cups, beautiful. I love the water here. Got the 2 chalices. A couple or people drinking, almost toasting. 3 of Cups. Right, so you see the 1, 2, 3 cups, one figure here, another figure there. Oh, and the third figure's here. I almost didn't see that. So she's kind of coming out of the water. She's standing naked, and this one is fully clothed. Interesting. 4 of Cups. Yeah, you definitely get the kind of sadness, the complacency, the sort of being contemplative or bored. I love the rocks, the sparseness. The 3 cups here and the 1 cup there. I don't know how well this is going to show up. You have the 3 cups here, and the 4th cup is kind of against this wing, the angel's wings. Might not show up too well on camera. Again, this is a really beautiful deck. Full photograph wise and filming wise, I think you'd have to have, good equipment, which I don't necessarily have. So hopefully it's coming through for you guys, but it is quite beautiful. But I think it's probably much more spectacular in person than it is on camera. 6 of Cups, oh, sweet. Right, the kind of mother-daughter, very bright, nostalgic, happy. Although the way this older woman, mother, looks with her arms crossed, doesn't look super happy, does she? 7 of Cups. Yeah, totally. I mean, you get the same type of imagery, right? Even the mountains in the background. 8 of Cups. You get the sense of the person walking away. The mountains. 9 of Cups. Yeah, these last ones are really quite reminiscent of Rider-Waite-Smith. 10 of Cups. I love this picture. I believe this is another Madonna and Child figure. I think this is just so sweet and kind of beautiful, and just very like holy, spiritual feeling. Page of Cups. See the figure over here and a seashell. And another kind of figure here. Knight of Cups. This looks like another kind of centaur with a big bass or cello. Queen of Cups. This is also one of my favorites. We get another sort of Madonna-like figure. I like the blue face. I don't know why. That's really cool. King of Cups. Now we're on to our swords. Ace of Swords. You get this kind of Pegasus. 2 of Swords. This is really pretty cool. You get the water here and you get the veiled figure. Instead of her eyes being covered, by a blindfold, you get the swords superimposed over her eyes, which is, kind of cool. Very similar and reminiscent, but its own take and different. 3 of Swords, right? We see the 3 swords going through the figure, this female figure here. But I love the sun, right? The 3 of Swords is often always thought of as such a negative, bad card, and you definitely get that with the 3 swords going into her, but I love the brightness in the background. That's like really like a cool juxtaposition to me, and I just think this is really beautiful. The brushwork you could see. Yeah, I like it because I read the 3 of Cups as kind of like you have to confront and embrace those feelings in order to move on. So I love that this figure here is sort of contemplating, thinking about it, feeling the feelings, being in her feelings, but you can see in the background on the horizon is more hope. 4 of Swords, you get this person at rest. 5 of Swords. Yeah, laying down their sword. You can see sort of a post-conflict situation. Everyone looks kind of deep in thought, which I like. 6 of Swords, you get the ship, the little boat. 7 of Swords. Oh, wow. So you get another kind of angel winged figure here who's clutching and grasping all the swords with 2 in the back. So again, very reminiscent, right? Very... she really did a great job of finding paintings that had similar feels and then, editing them and adding the elements into them. 8 of Swords, right? So it's hard to see again, but you could see the figure here kind of tied to this tree and then the 8 of Swords there with a little bit of an opening. 9 of Swords. This is another one of my really favorite cards. I just love the sort of darkness of it. Again, it's very, very reminiscent visually, but it's doing its own thing, which I think is so cool. 10 of Swords. This figure sort of all hunched and huddled up, a bit defeated, waiting for what's next. Page of Swords. Hard to totally tell what's going on here. I'd have to sort of look at this more myself to kind of really figure. You can see a figure here, I love it. It's beautiful. It gives me a lot of sort of swirling thoughts, feelings, emotions, almost confusion, asserting yourself, which I think is very reminiscent of the page. I feel like you could get so many intuitive hits off of this one because it's not necessarily giving you really concrete imagery, but I feel like you could do so much with it, thinking about that burst of new idea, but you haven't quite done something with it yet. You both get some potential turmoil, but also positivity. The Knight of Swords. So you see these figures here on the horse. Queen of Swords. I love this. I love that this queen is mounted. That's like so badass for a queen. Queen of Swords is one of my favorite cards in any deck, so I love a good interpretation, and I love that it's different. King of Swords. Now this is not someone you want to necessarily mess with, right? You see the figure with the sword sort of coming out of his mouth. It looks like he's almost holding it in his mouth. You have these stars down here that he's holding in his hands. Definitely ominous. Yeah, definitely kind of an ominous figure. It almost reminds me of one of the kings from the Lord of the Rings, movies and books. The sort of dead, I can't remember what they're called right now, but the dead guy that sort of come after him. People who are true fans probably know what I'm talking about and are yelling at me, but it's quite ominous, quite gives you quite the impression there. Okay. So now we are on to the major arcana. So you have the Fool, which is depicted in the stickers. I love this, right? This guy was sort of holding this giant head. He looks like, is he gonna throw it, over the cliff? Is he hanging onto it, right? What's gonna happen? Quite resolute there. I love the colors here. The Magician. You see the Lemniscate. You don't see much else nodding. I'm trying to see. Can we find the other symbols of the suits in here? Not seeing them. I would have to take a closer look, but I'm not seeing them. That's okay. I love this. I think it's a beautiful painting and picture, and it gives you what you need. And I think if you really worked with this, you could probably get your own intuitive hits and images as well. I can really see how a lot of these figures, because of the way things are blended and very moody, would give you a lot of intuitive hits. The High Priestess, you see the book, sort of this veil. The Empress, very reminiscent of the kind of Venus on a half shell Botticelli type of imagery. This sort of embryonic kind of thing. Like the sort of swirling water clouds in the background, but also I feel like it's that kind of Aphrodite, right, coming out of like the ether. The Emperor, so you see this figure here. He's got this big kind of orb crystal ball thing where you could see something in there. That definitely gives you real Emperor controlling vibes. The Hierophant, you see these two figures that look like they're coming to pray or looking to seek wisdom. You get the keys. You get this, everyone's clothes like in prayer. These like supplicants coming. The Lovers, you see these two figures. I like how these figures, this definitely looks like a more feminine female figure, but I like how they're almost androgynous, right? You get the same idea, but it's not totally like male-female. To me, they almost both look female. Which again, the Lovers is really about making choices. It's not necessarily about love. It's about commitment, right? Committing to a choice. And so I almost feel like the way that this is ringed here, we're almost seeing something, right? Like a choice we could make. Seeing into the future, seeing into the past. The Chariot, you get the two horses, you get the figure holding them. They're almost going off of this cliff here. It's really cool. Strength. So you have this Madonna-like figure again with the Lemniscate, and then you see this almost bobcat tiger-like figure in the background. Really cool. The Hermit. Get all the traditional imagery. The Wheel of Fortune, very moody. Figure here. You see this kind of wheel. Justice. The Hanged Man. Sort of a head suspended on a locket, a chain. That's kind of interesting and cool. Different interpretation. I love the blues. I love his blues. Blue's one of my favorite colors. I just love the use of blue in these paintings. Death. Now this one's definitely swirly. Right, I almost get like a side of a cliff with trees. You can see a figure here that's kind of sitting, and you have this kind of like white stuff coming out of him, coming down on him. Very spiritual feeling to me. I feel like very transportive. Temperance. Get the figure, you get water. Beautiful. Beautiful. The Devil. You get the serpent coming out. You get these two figures in red. A lot of swirling chaos. The Tower. This is another one, you know, this sort of dark, very moody, very impactful. A lot of sort of intuitive hits, a lot of intuition activation going on. The Star. The Moon. I like this one too. This reminds me of those like old-timey, like early stop motion, silent movies. If any of you remember the video for Tonight by Smashing Pumpkins, it reminds me of that, you know, Around the World in 80 Days thing. So you have the two figures, or the two animals, the moon figure. I like that it's black and white. Gives me very like dark night, midnight, middle of the night vibes. The Sun, orange figure, right? And we see the face of another sort of Madonna type figure here. Beautiful, very hopeful, I think, very triumphant. Judgment, again, you get the stained glass window here. Definitely, I know a lot of his art is inspired by kind of religion and his grappling with, I think, Catholicism. I believe he had religious parents. The stained glass window, this person sort of waiting. You definitely get the idea of judgment, consequence, action, and the world, right? So we get the same sense of figure, naked figure. You get everything around them in a circle. Now we are on to the extra cards, which there should be 6. So you get Revealing, Searching, Embarking, Awakening, Confinement, and Memory. Okay, so that's the deck. I'm going to leave these cards out. I have not decided yet how I'm going to work with those cards. So there is an Oracle deck that goes with this. The Oracle d'Or, like, you know, of gold, I believe it's called, by the same artist. That was another add-on for the Kickstarter, but I did not get that. So what I paid for it, so she's a Canadian artist, so it was shipped from Canada, or at least I, you know, paid shipping from Canada, which was to the United States was like $25. So that added a considerable price tag. I believe I just missed the early bird Kickstarter, so I paid just the regular, you know, Kickstarter price, which was, I think, 60 Canadian. So I think that converts to like 45 or 48 US, I believe I paid. Yeah. So it was 85 Canadian total, including shipping. So 60 Canadian for the deck, and then 25 Canadian for the shipping. So I think that all total comes out to like $48-ish, if I'm correct about that. So the add-ons, I'm really kicking myself in the butt. I wish I would have added on the expansion pack, but again, I think I just totally like missed that, or I thought that it was too late to add on, or I'm not really sure what I was thinking. Because I think it was only like $6 or $7 to add that, and I really wish that I would have. There was a bag, I believe. I know you could add the Oracle deck. You could add a bag. Again, I didn't add any of those things on just because, you know, that could get real pricey real fast. I just really wanted the deck. You know, I loved the deck. Of course, now you get that sense of like coulda, shoulda, woulda, but that's okay. Okay, so we'll dive into the guidebook. I'm just going to kind of show how it shuffles. According to the book and the Kickstarter, right, it's made for riffle shuffling. Oh yeah, right, you get that nice crisp, really nice. Smells really good too. I love the way it smells. It's definitely would fan out easily. Beautiful fan, right? So that's what you get. Definitely very luxurious. You know, it's thin. I mean, it's a 330 cardstock is, you know, quite sturdy, but it's not thick, which I like. You know, hopefully it should hold up pretty well. I have some other decks that are also not quite as nice as this cardstock, but you know, it's similar thinness, and they've held up really well. They've held up really well. And I like to fan, you know, when I'm choosing for myself or for clients, I like to fan. That's my style. So a deck that doesn't fan is really challenging to work with. Oh, Jesus. Okay. It's flying everywhere. That's okay. Okay. And I'm a pretty decent riffle shuffler, but you know, on camera. Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay. So the book is really nice. You know, it's kind of got this, it is thin feeling, right? This reminds me of like a Reader's Digest cover. Oh, that's the first that popped into my head. So it's, you know, just nicely bound. Definitely would be sturdy. You can see the glue here. You know, I think you could work with it well, bend it without it taking a beating. This cover definitely, you know, is not very thick, which is fine for me. You know, so you'd have to be careful, otherwise it could get bent. You know, I like things to stay nice and new, but I also like to use them. Okay, so we get this nicely spaced table of contents. You see there's an introduction to the deck. It discusses Dr. Frankel Tishman's approach to mindfulness. I'm not, you know, super familiar with her work. I know her name, but again, I'm not super familiar with her work, but she sort of adds a lot of transformative power. Again, it goes through each of the cards as we went through them. It explains why, you know, why it's ordered this way. I'll sort of pause if you want to pause and read this whole thing. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you because this video is already probably going to be quite long, but it talks about that, you know, her own relationship to both the deck, you know, the two previous iterations, and also the art itself. So she says, I hope that this lonely dreamer is a source of contemplation and peace. And if you connect with Redon's work, you might consider pairing the deck with the sibling, Oracle d'Or, created by Tora Matthews and myself, which is Melissa Wotherspoon. And I'm over the moon to have connected with Dr. Esther Frankel Tishman through my friend and sister in Terra, Lise LaRoque, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing these names. Esther has so generously contributed to this guidebook through her own personal connection to the Lonely Dreamer Tarot and through her mindful approach to tarot, allowing us to be present and filled with feelings of abundance. I've changed the order of cards in the deck to align with her mindful practice, which she outlines next. So then he gives a little bio and introduction to Dr. Frankel Tishman, and it talks about her social media as Mindful Tarot and her website Calyx Contemplative Care, Calyx Contemplative Care. So I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but it discusses this mindful approach, which she calls Drop M78. So this acronym DROPM, if you can see this here, drop anchor with the pentacles, respond with the wands, open with the cups, pierce through with the swords, manifest with the majors. And I really love that. So she says that it revises the common Golden Dawn ordering. The Golden Dawn followed a dualistic Kabbalistic perspective. They prioritized first the majors, then the minor suits according to a Hermetic vision of creation and creativity. The Golden Dawn ordering moves from the fire of divine emanation to earthly manifestation, from the majors to wands to cups to swords, culminating with the pentacles. So again, she's revising. That's, often not every deck is the same, but like if you get a Rider-Waite, like my Radiant Rider-Waite was in this order, right? That you have the majors, and then you have the wands, cups, swords, and then pentacles. Although I think mine was slightly different. I think mine was like wands, cups. Yeah, I think that's right. Swords and then pentacles. That's right. Okay. According to Esther, the Golden Dawn ordering seeks to ennoble the degraded world of fleshly mundane existence. But she asks, what if the flesh were already fully embodied? Instead, this mindful centered order, right? Drop anchor, respond, open, pierce, and manifest. I love that. Right? I love that. I mean, I think ultimately, once you use the deck and you shuffle it, the order doesn't necessarily matter, but I think this approach, right? Because we do know, right, the Golden Dawn, the Rider-Waite, even though it's beautifully illustrated by Pamela Coleman Smith, that draws upon a lot of religious symbolism. And for many of us, that, that kind of Judeo-Christian approach is not necessarily our own spiritual path. So I love that this is about manifestation. I love that it's about mindfulness, right? It's about self-transformation. Right, it invokes a different aspect of the mindful practice and suggests how the deck, suit by suit, teaches us about integration and presence. I love that. I love that so much. Okay. So, and then it goes through the 3 Ds, definition, detail, discovery. So each of the, I'll show you one of the entries, but each of the entry for the cards goes through a definition of what I have learned through study, what did I know about the cards already from other things, and then details, right? What single detail do I notice, right? So this is taking us through how we each can intuit the cards, right? This is how we can come up with our own relationship with the cards and our own definitions as well. And then D, discovery. It's about practice, right? What do you discover as you practice it? Okay. So it says, in 2022, Esther's clarifying deck was the historic Jean Dodal Tarot de Marseille. She pulled a random card from the Dodal every day alongside her Lonely Dreamer card. She often referenced the Dodal in her insights that follow. Okay. So it talks about, so it goes into the Suit of Pentacles. It talks about pentacles and the dropping of the anchor. It talks about it being about abundance. So as you're noticing here with the book, it is a little bit hard to read these things because of the thickness plus the way that the cover is. I'll accept it only because I think because you got this thick margin here of glue, the book's not going to come apart, but it does make for these first and pages on the front and the back. First few pages and the last few pages, a little difficult to read. But as I imagine, I use this and kind of break it open, and hopefully it would work. Okay, so it talks about dropping anchor. It talks about the sort of abundant world being round and full like a pentacle. Right, so it's an approach to the worldly material things. It talks about Jung, defines 4 functions of the human psyche. So I'm not going to go too much into this. If anyone wants like a more in-depth analysis discussion, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to kind of dive into it. My plan, as with all of my walkthroughs, is once I've worked with it for a month or a couple months, probably to do a follow-up review and talk more about the deck in detail. So you could see each of the entry, right? So it talks about the A's. So it has sort of an image, or, you know, it evokes. Okay, now I shuffled it, so I'm not going to find that. So it evokes, you know, the imagery of the actual painting, and it talks about some of the imagery and the meaning. Then it starts talking about the reversals and then what it represents in terms of elements, and then it has Esther's insights. So, and then she goes through the 3 Ds, right? Definition, detail, and discovery. So if I'm understanding this correctly, she's giving us this, but she's also inviting us to do the same process with our own selves. So nasturtiums, I believe that is the name of the painting from Redon. Right, so we get each of these things, which I do like. It doesn't necessarily analyze the painting, but it gives us all the important imagery. It goes through here. Okay. So it goes through the whole meanings. So at the back, we get the additional cards, right, with pretty short little entries. Talks about what the painting is, and then it has little short entries. I do believe that the idea with the additional cards is to sort of develop your own. There's no spreads, there's no other additional materials necessarily, which I think is fine. You know, there's such richness in here with Dr. Frankel Tishman's work and analysis and approach that I don't need spreads. Really, I think that's fine. Okay, so let's look at, you know, a meaning. I'm just going to sort of shuffle again, and we'll see what card we pull. And we can go through one of the meanings. Okay. This is not too shuffled, but that's okay. Let's pull this card here. Okay, so we get the Strength reversed. Because I've flubbed all those cards all over the place, there's a bunch of reversals probably in here. I don't know yet if I'm going to read reversals or not. I really do it on a deck specific. Since this one has, oh wow, look, I almost opened up directly to that entry. It has reversals in here, so I probably will work with reversals. But because I'm not as familiar with the art, you know, I probably first will kind of familiarize myself with the deck and use it, maybe without reversals at first. And then once I get to know it better and what its personality is like, I might start adding my reversals. So I haven't decided yet. Okay, Strength. The name of the painting is Joan of Arc or Jeanne d'Arc with added lion. So the lion looks like it's added in later. Strength is one of my favorite cards, so I love that that's the card that I chose. Okay, Joan of Arc is depicted here in her final moment, burning at the stake. Rising up out of the flames is her spirit, manifesting as a lion. Oh my God, I love that. Wow. In her short life of only about 19 years, she claimed to have experienced visions. At around 11 years old, she claimed she was visited by St. Michael, St. Catherine, and St. Margaret, and instructed to drive the English out of France and deliver the heirs to the French throne for his consecration. Exhausted of all other options, King Charles VI agreed to put Joan in control of the French army. She did indeed drive out the French and deliver the heir to the French throne, making a very accurate military prediction days before the events unfolded. Unfortunately, Joan was recaptured by the English and tried for heresy. It was heretical to dress in men's clothes, and it was downright witchcraft to talk of the dead. Joan committed the crime of dressing in men's clothes on a number of occasions, as she claimed they were more practical for movement and also protected her from assault while in prison. Joan of Arc was burned at the stake for this repeat offense. While Joan of Arc demonstrated incredible bravery and physical strength, her inner resolve and determination makes her an ideal subject for the Strength card. Don't hesitate to pick up her sword. Keywords: persuasion, courage, dedication, vulnerability, influence, compassion. Reversed: fear, brute force, aggression, low energy, being reactive rather than proactive. So in terms of Esther's insights, we get the D1 definition and detail, and then the discovery. So I don't know if you guys want me to read through this whole thing. So I'm just going to sort of paraphrase. If you pause, you might be able to read this yourself. So basically it says, in the monthly Mindful Tarot community, there's talk of the hero's journey, and particularly the position of the abyss, the shadow, the dragon's lair, the home of the minotaur at the center of the labyrinth. That place where we need to go, where we know we need to go, but where we really don't want to go. Dear lonely people, we don't need fearlessness or bluster for this journey. We actually need to keep our vulnerability intact. Without our tenderness, the fire will harden us like steel. And this journey back to our original home will require us instead to melt like snow. Wow, that is a beautiful. I know I said I wasn't going to read the whole thing, but I couldn't help myself. I love that. I really love that. That's such a deep, insightful thought, because strength is really not about, right? It is about the inner resolve. It's not about conquering, external. The lion and the strength is not an external lion, right? I love that it's Joan of Arc with the lion coming out of it, right? That she's sort of becoming that lion. Lost my place. Okay. So detail, it talks about the fire, talks about the imagery that is in the painting itself. The lion's roar is identical to what burns her completely, right? So the flame and the lion's roar as parallels. And she says, I really don't want to turn Joan of Arc's historical, literal torture and murder into a metaphor, but I can't quite avoid remembering the saying of Suzuki Roshi, founder of the San Francisco Zen Center. When you do something, you should burn yourself up completely, like a good bonfire, leaving no trace of yourself. Can we give ourselves fully to this life? Love that, right? It's about what are you convicted to do? What are you really committed to? Because you think about in Strength Here's number 8, right? We've committed ourselves in the Lovers. We've taken the reins, taken control in the Chariot. And, the Strength is really about starting that second line of the Major Arcana, right? If you follow the, Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom, splitting in 3 lines method, right? It's that first step into maturation, right? So you have the Fool through the Chariot, and then Strength is the first card of the second line. Discovery. In Marseille tradition, the 8th trump is justice, and so she is my calibrator card today, reminding me that giving myself fully to my life is also living fully into my intention, living fully in my choices. Sometimes it simply means play the hand that you've been dealt. Cool. Really love that. That's nice. So I really am excited to work with this. I think it's such a beautiful deck. For a kind of indie deck, I think that it was super affordable, right? Like $45. It looks very sturdy. I can't stop smelling it. It's nice, right? It's not compact, but I have a lot of big decks that I like to work with. So I do like the size of just sort of a normal standard tarot size.